And I'm an architect. And my today and my tomorrow requires that I show up and be the architect. And I have a whole new, psychologically, metaphysically, metaphorically, from this weekend, I have a new canvas. And what will appear on that canvas? That is up to you and the hero that is within you. Yes, you and the hero within you. So what did I just say? It's up to you and the hero within you. So I trust all of you are with Mother's Tree of Life class, most of you, right? You understand that so much has been disclosed just in the last year. So said very shortly, now you understand that you have a real spiritual identity that you probably have not even lived 2% of your real self. Your real self. Let's go through the list. Different names. You have discovered that your real self, not the little self walking around down here on earth called Derek or Gwendolyn or David, but you have a real self that has been hidden from the world, and this is true of every human being. We can say it in religious terms. We can say that you have discovered that you and every other person, even if they know it or not, is the infinite individualization of God, Goddess, all that is. We can say it that way. Where is this infinite individualization of God? Not your mind, body, or feelings, because those are your multi-body system. Where is it? It's within your consciousness, but it hasn't come forth. The world has denied it. The world has not understood the last of 10 million years of great religious teachings. Instead of being great, the religious teachings of the world have imprisoned the hero, the jewel, the only begotten Son, the Christ, the true spiritual identity. World religions, world control systems have ensured that your real self has been submerged within your consciousness. Now, with Mother's Tree of Life class teachings and the course that you are studying, you have discovered that within your consciousness is your inner self. You've discovered your inner self is the infinite individualization of God. You've discovered that there's many different ways you could say it. That your inner self is the Christ. That this is what Jesus was trying to say. It's the truth of everyone. You've discovered that your God self has projected you down to the earth 700-800 times, and only a few of those lifetimes have you come close to living your true self, because your true self is submerged within your consciousness. Ayn Rand. Do you remember her? Some say Ayn Rand. It's actually pronounced Ayn Rand. Do you know who I speak of? Yes. So she is the Russian woman, the immigrant, who went to New York City, and she created the philosophy of objectivity. She wrote several books that became famous. Atlas Shrugged, Fountainhead, right? Yes. Now, it is said that she was an atheist, but those closest to her said she's not an atheist at all. She's the most spiritual woman around. It's just that she has an aberration because of what religion has done to the people of this world. She just, the idea of using a religious word to reveal the true person, she just abhorred that idea. So the Christ is your true spiritual identity. So we could say it Ayn Rand's way. Within your consciousness is what Ayn Rand said, the hero. And the hero in Atlas Shrugged, The Fountainhead, is an individual who is tapping into their field of excellence, their passion, their purpose, and does not compromise it to anyone. That is the philosophy of objectivity. Zero compromise. And the characters in her stories are individuals who actually, during times in their life when failure and failure and failure was what they were faced with as they knocked on doors of possible opportunity, and those doors said no, no, no to them. And many of these individuals in Anne's story were individuals who ended up eating out of garbage cans. Because in the one story, as New York was rising, the 1920s, already thousands of skyscrapers, but tens of thousands more would come. And the story of the architect, which is that? Fountainhead, yes? The genius that he tapped into. And all the architect companies, they said, man, you got to be the best architect, but you're too far advanced. We don't dare bring you in. You're building, you want to design buildings that have never ever been created. No way. And the best architect, they recognized him as the best. But they said, you got to tamp down. You got to tamp it down. Your buildings are too severe. They're too advanced. Everyone said no to him. Failure, failure, failure. And if you have the opportunity to interview like Napoleon Hill did, recognize that name? Napoleon Hill, Think and Grow Rich. If you had an opportunity to interview successful people like Napoleon Hill did, he found that there was several common denominators between the most successful. We're not talking about rich families who carry on their legacies. No, these are people that work their way to the top. He found a common denominator. First one was unbelievable amount of failures before they finally had success. But they kept getting up and kept pursuing. Napoleon Hill found one other common denominator in this group of successful people who ended up fulfilling their dreams and creating a masterpiece with their life. Something that many of the Fords, Henry Ford, and the legacy of the Henry Ford family, and the sons, and the grandsons, and the great-grandsons, until the modern, I think it is Bill Ford, present. But they all had something in common. So again, the first denominator is they all experienced failure. But they kept getting up no matter what. The other thing that they did was each of them valued turning the lights off and sitting in the dark all alone with no influence from the outer world. And often, as Henry Ford would do, he'd sit at his desk at night and just have one candle flame and just be in the silence, because that's where all these amazing thoughts would come forth. And a generation later, the Ford Motor Company. So what I'm desiring to do here is that you would recognize, perhaps, precious hearts, that your todays and your tomorrows, there must be a foundation in which you decide how much longer you're going to compromise.